and welcome to my After the Fact Live on Luna Eclipsed. We are talking Season 2, Episode 4. The very start. Honestly, this holds special significance to me. Because not only does it star my favorite princess, and really the introduction of...
Luna Best Princess!
Best Princess!
And someone down the hall is like, and Celestia's good too! I've met Cadence fans, but it's hard to get the dialogue going. But this is also special significance to me because when I was first getting into the show, Season 1 had already been out. I was able to watch it in blocks, like 3 episodes a night. I cleared through pretty fast. It was by Luna Eclipsed that now I was part of the rhythm of the fandom. I miss this rhythm. I miss when you start a week out and you have the memory of the previously aired episode. Then there's that teaser on Thursday, just that little clip to whet your appetite. Then there's another clip on Friday. Oh, I can't wait. Saturday, the episode. Sunday, the fandom works, the reviews, the reactions. Monday and Tuesday, the comics. Wednesday, okay, we're getting a little low again. And then it's Thursday again where we get to have the preview. We don't have that anymore, not just because the show ended, but because suddenly episodes got leaked early, aired in other countries, scripts were out. We lost the rhythm, and I'm sorry to say we lost a good part of the fandom that way too. But hey, we have not lost the fandom. Exactly. So, let's get things started as we start with a unique introduction. Yes, Twilight is going to introduce us to a very important character, even though they're first going to play him off as not so great. Swirl the bearded jerk. That is my name for him, and I will not change it, sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Apologize for nothing.
Pretentious fellas.
So it is, but this requires a little explanation.
I'm Swirl the Bearded, father of the amniomorphic spell.
Amniomorphic. Amniomorphic. I do not know what this is. I do not know what this thing is. The father of the amniomorphic spell. Wow. Okay, let's break this down. We're about to go etymological. Alright, amnio, also taken from amos, is Greek for bull or lamb. Take your pick. Morphic, to shape. To adjust. I know that metamorphosis transform, but morphic is more to shape. Now, there's some disagreement. Some would argue that instead of amnio, or amnos, it's instead amnion, from ancient Greek, which is a sacrificial bowl used to catch blood from a sacrificed lamb. That may be why those two words are linked. Or, from the New Greek, it's the membrane around the fetus. I refuse to show a picture of that. I thought about it and said, no. No. So we have several
PG-13 rating.
We have several conflicting views on what the amnio in amniomorphic spell represents. And based on this, I view it as kind of a Rorschach test for you as a fan. Because based on this, Swirl might have made a lamb-shaping spell. He wanted, yeah, maybe he was a Euro inventor. Maybe he had a secret craving for meat amongst herbivores. Tough time for him. Maybe it was a revolutionary medical spell that could save life within the mother. This is very early on in Equestria's history. Modern medicine isn't what it was. Or wouldn't be what it is. Yes, there's the word. Or we can also go with the most pun-filled approach. Swirl was shaping it, so Swirl the Bearded is a Harry Potter.
Yes!
I'm thinking the bowl shaper is the winner on this one. But depending on which interpretation you like most, that might say a little something about how you want to approach this as a fan. Maybe you like just sheer bizarrety. Maybe you like something a little serious and magical. Maybe you just like a pun, in which case you are my bootkin.
Multimodal reflection sorting in Equestria.
Oh great, Tech, babble, conduits, reverse polarity. I can do it too.
Did you even read that book I gave you about obscure unicorn history? Stars Bearded is only the most important conjurer of the pre-classical era. He created more than 200 spells. He even has a shelf in the Canterlot Library of Magic named after him. Time spells are kept in the Star Swirl the Bearded wing, the Star Swirl the Bearded Traveling Museum. A whole day to celebrate Star Swirl the Bearded. What could be better?
Something even a great unicorn like Star Swirl the Bearded was not able to do, because he did not understand friendship like you do.
It wasn't difficult to change Star Swirl's spell. He'd already done the hard part.
I mean, Star Swirl was a genius, obviously. But forget old Ponish. There's parts where his horn writing is like another language.
You know, I've heard it said that dying is the best thing you can do for your career, but this is ridiculous!
And he didn't even die.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Well, everyone thought he was dead. I mean, he disappeared one day, and, you know, given the flow of time, you'd think.
It's oddly plot where it's like, oh yeah, he was a great magician, but also he didn't know what friends were. He was a loser with no friends.
Well, truth be told, you can accomplish great heights and while suffering from a personal underdevelopment. It usually leads to a much darker place for where you get your inspiration.
Well,
But here's the thing: at the start of this series, there's a shelf named after him in the library. Then there's a wing named after him. Then he's the greatest spellcaster of all time. Then he's a time traveler. Then he's actually a lost pillar who is responsible for the elements of harmony, and he's really, really crotchety, and oh my gosh, whatever happened to just there's a shelf? Somewhere in the Canada Library there is a shelf gathering dust, and it is remembering when it was Star Swirl. Now it's the hipster section. Very sad. But, you know, I think we've harped on it. This was the introduction of Star Swirl the Bearded. We didn't know it at the time. The show writers didn't necessarily know it at the time, but they created something that would evolve and take on more meaning as the show progressed. Now we get to the holiday.
Little children dressed as hideous creatures demanding treats from perfect strangers. Finally, a holiday I can sink my teeth into.
Who knew Lord Zed was a brony? Well, the thing is, he really doesn't seem to like green or white ponies.
I got it.
They get it.
Poor Lyra.
Poor Lyra, poor Oliver. What a twist. Alright, but okay, we got Trick or Treat, and you notice, it's kind of funny, while these three are not central to the story, they will be the most prominent fools, except for one other. Now, knowing what we know now, what do you want to bet Twilight's looking at that pink one on the on your right, looking at those dots of the ladybug and going, ah!
Yes.
Great costumes. Happy Nightmare Night, Granny Smith.
I should have been asleep 5 hours ago.
This is another hallmark of the early seasons when Granny broke down to just one joke. I'm old.
Yeah.
Was that nostalgia? She always went with the, you know, I've got a bad hip. Oh, I should be in bed. I don't like modern technology. Get off my lawn. I'm glad that, well, this is funny. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy this joke, but I'm glad that they let her be more of a firecracker later on in the series. It gave her greater depth and a better role. But this was just before she started to change in Sister of Social and become more prominent in the cast. And then
Pipsqueak the Pirate, at your service. It's my very first Nightmare Night.
Pipsqueak the Pirate, the adorable, the clumsy one, he will be our symbol of innocence throughout this entire piece.
Yep.
Then he'll get into politics, cool shot. You think student council president is just the start? No, he's gone down the dark path.
Pinkie Pie, aren't you a little old for this?
Too old for free candy? Never.
She's got the right idea.
But, okay, yeah, she has the right idea. Free candy is great, but really is how much you're going down this rabbit hole, Pinkie. When even the children are terrified by your appearance, I think you need to see, you can be in costume, you can ask for a piece of candy yourself, but when you're pushing the kids out of the way to get the free candy, you gotta tone it down, Pinkie. Tone it down.
When was Pinkie never wanted to tone it down?
What do you want to bet when she became a mom? Someone would sit her down and say, Pinkie, do you want another you running around?
Lighten up, old timer. This is the best night of the year for pranks.
Oh, there's Rainbow Dash. Sure. She's pranking everyone, startling them with lightning bolts. Dressed up, ironically, in the costume of who tried to recruit her. And apparently not very good at stitching. Where's that tape? Staples. Oh.
Staples.
Okay, I can only imagine how that fitting went. Ow, 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 ow. Well, either way, it sounds very, very uncomfortable. But funny thing is, all this is going to come together.
Every year, we put on a disguise to save ourselves from her searching eyes. To gobble up ponies in one quick swing. So if she comes and all is clear, Equestria is safe another year. Fill up her belly with a treat or two, so she won't return to come eat you.
Okay, let's start with one thing. This is the best exposition ever.
Yes.
Can you imagine if we could have this sort of thing in history class?
We'd actually learn.
VR history class is actually, history might be the class that benefits the most from VR. But here's the thing, Sakura. It's really nice to see her taking part, and this, oddly enough, harkens to what will come in the Scare Mask. Twilight points out maybe you're better off being the scarer than the scare-e. Well, here's Sakura. Once upon a time, ponies were scared of her by default, by their own limited perceptions. Now they've welcomed her into this ritual, and she's part of it. They're scared, but they're not scared for the same reasons, and thus she's actually being welcomed as a member of the community. That was really great to see. I really love this. It was kind of weird in the Cutie Pox when Sakura sort of relapsed, oh, doors are closed and shutters shut, perhaps I should have stayed in my hut. Well, that regressed fast, I'm sorry. But no, for this, she is there scaring, but as part of the fun, included. And also delivering the best effects. I really can't emphasize, forget the Exposition Express. Forget being on a train ride and those 3 terrible words, as you know. No, just have Sakura. Have her start each episode with a little backstory and a little flash of magic. That would have been way better flashback material.
I can leave, never seen the episode again.
Never seen the episode again. Or Pinkie says, who is this guy? Sakura, attend me. And Sakura's like, oh, you do not summon me like that.
No, you do not.
But this all comes together. Because here's the thing. Obviously, we are watching the pony version of Halloween. But that comes with a question, because this is one of the big questions of the episode. Why would Celestia let this develop? Why would Celestia allow a holiday that insults and antagonizes her sister take part? And so I'm going to try and dissect this with what we know about modern, our world Halloween. And what you might see the elements within the episode. So let's start with the original Halloween, which was not called Halloween. As near as we can tell, it was traced back to a Celtic ritual, Samhain, which celebrated the change in the season. Did I mispronounce that? How is it pronounced? Samhain. Samhain. Okay, Samhain. All right, thank you for the correction. I'm going, funny enough, by the real Ghostbusters. They had a villain by the same name. They all said Samhain. So, Samhain.
I think it is Samhain. It's the movie Halloween that says it's Samhain. Halloween is derived from All Hallows Eve, and that's where the Halloween comes from. So there's a group of people that have have incorrectly described it as being Samhain because that's where the name is derived from. No, it's derived from Halloween.
Gotcha. Well, this holiday that starts with an S. I think we might have an anthology off in the lobby later on. I appreciate.
Who was the other person?
Well, I'm sorry. This is a good thing to discuss and learn more, but I have to keep going with the presentation. All right. So it is true that Christianity, as it was drawing people in, a lot of times it was easier to adopt the idea rather than combat it, because an idea is much more difficult to remove. In fact, if anything, the more you try to repress something, the stronger you'll make it.
I know there's also.
Okay. Guys?
Guys? You can
guys?
outside.
Fight outside.
I understand the thirst for knowledge. But basically, rather than try to suppress all mention of this holiday, they instead tried to adopt it into their culture. So it became part of All Saints' Day, a day to celebrate the saints. And from there, All Souls' Day, November 2nd, to celebrate the dead in general. Celebrate all their spirits. So, here's the first premise I'm going to put out there. Celestia recognized that this idea had spread far, so far that she couldn't really counter it. She could only work with it and ride the wave and try to mitigate the damage. Because even a princess can't dictate how others think. That's for you to resolve. I sincerely hope I never actually do that for people. But it would have stayed local, just this idea of, just in small towns. It was a rural thing for a good long time until, remember, the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason plot. I see no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. In fact, you all started chanting with me, makes me think I actually can make you think. Give Silver-Quill $10. Give Silver-Quill $10. Oh, I'm being doom flagged. But here's the this.
Shut up and take my money.
Is that a proposition? So here's the thing. Guy Fawkes, he tries to blow up Parliament with gunpowder. And for a very long time, well, actually still currently, like November 5th is a celebration day in England. They mock his failure. People would wear masks and have big bonfires, and in a weird way, a lot of the traditions of Halloween moved into the more urban areas and became more popular as a result because of making fun of this. So now, okay, there's an idea Celestia can't counter, and it's making fun of Nightmare Moon in a way. It's mocking her. It's also very possible that that Nightmare Moon is not the original being feared at Nightmare Night. Is it possible that there was something else that Nightmare Moon kind of became synonymous with this threat that you wanted to pass over? A question?
The Candy Mare?
The Candy Mare. Actually, guys, I'll tell you the truth. In G1, there was this evil red cloud coming over Ponyville, and they had to cover up anything red so that it would not see them. It's a very limited sight for a cloud. So it was all a mad scramble to get everything red out of Ponyland.
Is this like the Moses story or what?
This is why I'm a fan of archetypal studies, because yes, you see these same ideas flowing through cultures, from ancient biblical texts in the Torah to children's media. The idea is there, weaving through under the surface, and it's trying to tell us something. Like, for God's sakes, when someone tells you to keep your head down, keep your head down. But okay, gunpowder treason, a villain, at least in the public eye, who needs to be mocked. But it gets people a little rowdy. It gets people a little over-energized. This leads us to America, where we suffer from Devil's Night. Things got out of hand. Once upon a time, Halloween was not simply going door to door to get candy. It was, hey, tonight's a little night to raise hell. People were dressing up in costumes. They had their identities obscured. And they go around and they do, sometimes it was really simple things like, ring the doorbell and run away. Who here saw the Riff Ponies panel last night? One or two. Okay, well then you know about the bag with the dog droppings. They might have tried that.
You just check out the movie Meet Me in St. Louis. They actually have the event and the kids going and doing a little bit of destruction of property too. Oh, it's all for fun! Ha 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 ha! So it's
controlled destruction.
You don't control this.
But other places like Detroit, especially in the 1970s, Devil's Night was actual destruction of the neighborhood, setting fires, putting potatoes on trail cars rails or trolley rails so that they would derail and fall over. We're talking putting genuine lives in danger. That's how bad it got. And that is why many cities introduced controlled destruction, a chance to sort of have a good laugh as everyone's, sure, breaking stuff, but it's breaking stuff where you can see it and where you can easily clean the damage. Or get people together, have a church gathering, a community gathering, anything to give the kids an outlet for their energy without letting them roam free to cause unfocused destruction. And that's part of why our tradition is trick or treat, which is only about 100 years old. In this long history of Halloween, which I've only just brushed the surface, there are entire words that are unique to just the late 20th century. And, I realize how old I'm sounding right now. Yeah, this is one of the things older than me. Let me have this. So, one of the odd things about history is that we always like to act like it's the distant, distant past. Sometimes it's still only like 1 or 2 generations removed. And so, trick or treat is bribery. One of the things that people quickly seized upon is that this lady, I think in Detroit, she would offer kids homemade snacks, popcorn balls, candied apples, and she'd say, look, you can have this, but leave my home alone. It's free. And the kids would abide by it. They were bribed off. Halloween is the most hardcore gangsta holiday out there. It's the back alley deal. You want a little pre-Christmas cheer? Hey, I got some riding right here. Right here, some good stuff. So this thing is terrifying. It is a protection racket. When you say trick or treat, you are really saying there's a real nice house you got here. Be ashamed of, okay, now picture a little kid doing it. Be a real shame. So trick or treat. And then eventually companies got involved. Brought this bribery, don't hurt my home, here's some treats. Companies got involved and said, hey, we can make some money off this. So that's when they started making candy. Eventually coming up with the contradictory fun-size candies. Because what's fun-sized about less candy? I ask you all. But, so notice that we've seen all those elements in Nightmare Night. We've seen a villain and a history that may require a little bit of mockery. We've seen that, yes, it inspires some Devil Knight's antics or, well, if you're not careful, damage. And you see dressing up and asking for treats with the threat of a trick. So now picture Apple Bloom. Y'all got a nice home here.
Not see.
And you'll probably, yes?
Not see.
Oh, I know, but it's cuter if Apple Bloom is.
School. I'd be ashamed if your legs were broken as much as my wings.
You're treading on.
You know what happens to one that break their legs?
Moving hastily on. Now I want to say this is an introduction. It's not.
And
we never see these guys again. But the idea of bat ponies, that took root really fast. This is like a certain cross-eyed gray mare who was only supposed to be in one scene as a joke and became a staple. These guys infiltrated the brony consciousness and became part of it. And we still don't know what's up, if that's like a spell Luna casts because she likes her guards a certain look.
Or if they live up in the attic.
They live up in the attic. There's a bunch of horses hanging upside down in the rafters, just sleeping off the day. They might have had a little bit too much the night before. And Twilight inherits the Canterlot rule and looks up and is like, what are they doing? Shh. So, but then if we're talking about big change. My, yeah. The return of Princess Luna in her new awesome gear, which is, well, bats. You have a cloak made of bats?
Oh, Peter!
Have you had your shots? Actually, what I find funny about this, look at the shape of the cape, especially along the top. That's not matching Luna's tail, that's Celestia's tail. They adopted Celestia's tail animation for the cloak.
Wow. Boy, sure hope someone got fired for that blunder.
Well, the cloak maker maybe, but I don't know, I find it kind of fitting. It's like, sister, your curves are barely enough to cover mine. But this is Luna back for the first time since the show premiered. And we never really find out why she has gone from this tiny little horse with a lighter coat to this darker, more regal figure with heavy emphasis on eyeshadow. But the comics tried, and they did a really good job of presenting an idea and a story. It was the Nightmare Rarity arc, early on in IDW's run, like what, issue 6? Well, sorry, I heard several voices at once.
I think it was like around 6 or 6 to 10, that was it.
6 to 10, well that's a good deal right there. But honestly, that story didn't quite do it for me, so I don't fully know why she got this growth spurt, but dang, she got a growth spurt.
Yes.
But things aren't going so great for her.
Very well then. Be that way. We won't even bother with the traditional royal farewell.
That tonal change, where first, yeah, we don't get, I didn't show you the Royal Canterlot voice, but I'm sure you've all heard it by now. And also, but then all of a sudden, be that way. Going from this regal being to what sounds like a petulant teenager.
Her rarity is showing. It's very
But, well, as she's voiced by Tabitha St. Germain, I can understand that. But at the same time, I gotta say, this is a moment to ask why Luna is so popular within the fandom. Given her very limited showing for a while, why did she seem to take over as the favorite princess? And hey, I say that, she is my favorite princess.
Luna best princess.
So I wonder about this popularity. It's so easy at the start of this to wonder if she's just going to be prideful, arrogant, and demanding, like unpleasant character, which really would have hurt her chances. But I noticed that even in the framing of the shots, they're trying to convey a sense of vulnerability. When Celestia walks on stage, everyone bows before her, and she is shown from a low-angle shot, powerful, graceful, wings expanded wide. Luna is presented, everyone is cowering before her, but she herself is shown at a low-angle shot. You, the audience, are looking down on her. You see how small she is compared to everyone around her. Basically, for all her bluster, you get the sense that she is very much feeling small in the crowd. In a way, all this loudness seems to convey she's trying to compensate for a feeling of isolation, inadequacy, and trying to live up to an ideal.
It is tradition to speak using the royal we, and to use this much volume when addressing our subjects.
Right, that's like the perfect slapstick reaction. But here's the thing, Luna is very quickly being shown that she's trying to live up to a role and a title. And I've said before, titles do not bestow qualities, they set expectations. You're expected to live up to that, but no one quite knows how to tell you how to go about that. So Luna is laying in heavily on tradition, hoping in a sense to mimic Celestia. Whereas Celestia made the role her own. She's had a history, she's had 1,000 years to get things right and wrong, and to outlive any mistakes she made. Plus, they probably didn't have gossip journals back then. So Luna is trying very hard to understand what to do. And I especially appreciate that we see her, after she leaves the town in a huff, sitting in the shadow of her former self, her past mistake, and just, well, kind of pushing this away like even she's offering to this nightmare that's bigger than her. This concept that's taken root in Ponyville's mind far more than love for their Princess of the Night. And apparently she has to rely on Twilight Sparkle, who is invading her personal space. Look at that expression. Like, Pony, you're getting all up in my grill here.
Social distancing, Twilight.
Well, this is from a more innocent age. If you told me back then that I'd be talking through a mask with most people, and I'd need to make sure permission before I take this off, I would say, get out of my house! But yeah, Twilight's the only one seeming to give Luna a chance, so she's trying to be a connector. Get her in touch with what I consider to be the funniest part of this entire episode.
Go away! No candy here! Visitors not welcome on Nightmare Night!
And she does. She can give Luna a run for her money. Now, here's the thing. As we're watching this, I want you to keep a premise in mind. Some folks say that humor is subjective. Other folks try to undo the subjectivity of that. And one theory I really like is you have lack and excess. Two polar opposite ideas. If you forge a connection together, boom, you get comedy. It's like matter and antimatter. So here we have lack. Fluttershy is usually a very timid, demure pony. Excess. That pony is shouting all of a sudden because she is overly terrified of what's going on. Boom, humor. Now compare that when you have an excess of volume against a lack.
We ask that thou teachest us to speak as thou speakest. Okay. Shall our lessons begin? Okay. Shall we mimic thy voice?
Okay.
How is this?
Perfect. Lesson over.
Now, this puts me in an awkward spot where I'm suffering my own combination of lack and excess. The lack of respect for my favorite pony. Lack of respect for my favorite pony, but also an excess of slapstick, which I enjoy. I don't know. Oh, I guess I do know how I feel. And as much as I love Fluttershy, I would enjoy it. But honestly, looking at this scene and all the awkwardness, the eagerness versus lack of eagerness, also the abundance of Fluttershy meme faces. I mean... I'm kind of expecting to hear the heavy go, Fluttershy is dead!
Aren't you the heavy?
I was. But I've been working out, thanks. But then, well, Pinkie Pie happens.
Oh boy.
I thank thee, dear Fluttershy. Our normal-speaking voice shall surely win us the hearts of thy fellow villagers.
So, yeah, everything seems to be fine. Then Pinkie Pie happens. Fluttershy is, of course, why did I open the door? She's going to be like, Twilight, you are off the knocking list.
It is of no use, Twilight Sparkle. They have never liked us, and they never shall.
Oh, no, doesn't that speak to vulnerability right there? You see it crack through. I'd argue that Luna's vulnerability, her isolation from the crowd, I think a lot of us here, including myself, can empathize with how that feels. Celestia is always in her element thanks to long-standing practice. Cadence, popular by default. I have to say, I didn't get to see her in her step up very often, but Luna has had to earn respect and find her way through discomfort. And I think that's the secret of her popularity. That's why we all are attracted to this presentation. Now, tomorrow I'll be doing Applejack Appreciation. Woo! So, forgive me if I go a little faster through this section, because Applejack, while initially put off by Princess Luna, is also quick to welcome her because she recognizes, hey, somebody needs a little help, a little encouragement, and that is Applejack to a T. And so we get the odder part of something, fun. What is this fun? A robot learner does not understand concept of fun. Initiating catapult sequence.
Ha-ha! The fun has been doubled!
That's right, put it on a t-shirt, print it, make some moolah. So again, now Luna is getting accepted, she's interacting with me, things are going great, and then Pinkie Pie happens.
Oh,
Damn it.
But before Pinkie gets involved, I want to call attention to two screenshots. This is at the start, where Luna's like, instruct us in how to make this fun. Now look at her pose after she's had someone's fun. Do you see how she starts actually looking at the subjects? Up until now, she's been trying to look down her nose at everything, or snout, muzzle, what have you. But now she's actually looking at them. Suddenly she doesn't have to feel like she must be superior in order to be accepted. So, real progress. A lot of it owed to Applejack, my second favorite of the main six. But, like I say, Pinkie happens and things go wrong.
Since you choose to fear your princess rather than love her, and dishonor her with this insulting celebration, we decree that Nightmare Night shall be cancelled forever!
It's really good this town isn't demolished every week with how much they freak out for new season.
Good. She doesn't get, you don't get to make that call, Luna. But I'll talk with your sister. Then you'll get it. But actually it's that line, since you choose to fear your princess rather than love her. You know what that's a reference to?
Machiavelli.
Exactly right. Niccold Machiavelli, who was basically the original writer for underhanded politics. He didn't invent them, he just wrote them down. Because this guy, he argued, well, he wrote in his book, The Prince, a prince must make himself feared in such a way that he does not gain, that if he does not gain love, he does avoid hatred. For to be feared and not hated can go very well together. And this he will always achieve if he does not touch the goods and the women of his citizens and subjects. Now obviously this is geared with a very specific audience in mind. But notice that Luna has just messed with the community's property. She's just messed with their holiday. So in a sense, she may seem like she's putting a stop to it as an insulting event. She's actually going to make ponies hate her more. She's actually decreasing her chances here. But there's also a lot of conversation around the concept of Machiavelli and what he put out there. Is that the real interpretation, or is he just saying how people have done things wrong? See, Machiavelli also stated, victories are never secure without some respect, especially for justice. Now, we ask the question, yes, this Nightmare Night is pretty harsh on Luna. I mean, it's basically a holiday where everyone makes fun of you and your terrible, difficult past. But is it justice to take it away and all the enjoyment others are having? What is the right thing to do? You can debate that. The last thing about Machiavelli, and the doubt many people have if he really was as cutthroat as the prince and other writers make him sound. He wrote to a friend at the end of his life, I'd like to teach them, the public, the way, or rather the ruling classes, the way to hell so they can steer clear of it. Basically, he wrote down the brutal practicality of leadership. But he also seemed to suggest that if you only follow the brutal practicality, you're going to be doomed. Things are going to fall against you. So, in a weird way, Equestria is sort of the opposite of Machiavelli. The goal is to be loved rather than feared. And Machiavelli might say, hey, that's a great idea, but you're doing it wrong. You're still taking away from the public, and they will hate you for that. Sure, they might fear you enough to stop running around, but after that flex, you've lost them.
But I want it to be a zombie next year.
They know that.
Well, some folks are just undying to know. I love that it's the princess. 1 year a princess, another a zombie. It's only background ponies for the most part, so there's not a great deal of character to study. But they are expressing sort of a diversity of range. A lot of folks wonder what a Halloween costume says about your personality. What do you dream about? What are your secret desires? What are your secret goals? And what does that say? One might say that about the cosplays we choose. What do they say about us? Maybe something we admire, maybe something we strive towards, maybe something in spirit we don't have. Who knows? So it's something to study, but I love seeing all the diverse array. We've got, an Egyptian ruler, Mortal Kombat over in the corner there, a Viking, a space pony, which, again, how do they know about that? Does the question have a space program?
Yeah, the top center. Fisherman being eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
Jaws.
Or horns, depending.
Oh, also, all space ponies must like bananas. Yeah, I know the classic fans here. The OG. But, alright, we gotta fix this.
I'm going to do what I do best. Lecture her.
No, Twilight, Luna's been through enough! But alright. And we also get another layer of depth to Luna.
But you have to believe me when I tell you that Nightmare Night is one of the most popular celebrations we have.
Yes, I can tell by all the adoring shrieks of the children as they run away.
As they run away. Yep, look, I love the sarcasm, because sarcasm is often a note of a soul that has been tread upon too harshly. So, poor Luna, she has really had her soul trampled. And that look, she's giving Twilight. You got 3 eye highlights. All right, 3. That's when you know it's on. So, but then Twilight figures, let's reconcile with Pinkie. That'll fix it, because Pinkie's been a problem.
Did you hear that, everybody? Nightmare Moon says she's gonna feast on us all!
What?
She stole Fluttershy's voice so she can't scream when she gobbles her up! Nightmare Moon is gobbling Pipsqueak! Everybody run!
I think you need a slap.
Oh, well, yes, there's the question. Do we blame Pinkie Pie? And she didn't get a slap, she got a flying tackle.
Fucker!
Whoa.
Oh. Too far.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute. Pinkie is wanting everyone to have fun. She's about to enlighten Twilight. Here's the thing. How often did Pinkie stick around to actually see the consequence of her getting all the kids to run away screaming? Never. So, Pinkie's making the situation worse, but not out of what I would say malice. She's doing what the holiday calls for. Give kids a scare, let them run around and shed some nervous energy. Better that than TPing houses or lighting stuff on fire. Detroit will attest to that. So in a way she's doing her part, but she's also undermining Luna's goals because she doesn't know. So this episode was, I think, really hard for Pinkie Pie fans, as people would say, oh, curse that Pinkie, she ruined everything so many times, this is all her fault. And if you get satisfaction with seeing her get tackled, I'm there with you, it's funny still. But at the same time, Pinkie is, I don't know if I can be mad at Pinkie for operating with a lack of information. And there is one scene that starts to turn her around.
Do you promise not to shriek? Mm-hmm.
Hey, she's making an effort. She says, I won't shriek. She doesn't shriek, even to the point of clamping her own mouth shut. So, one of the things about a Pinkie Pie episode where she makes things look bad, like especially Philly Vanilli, with Flutter Guy, and she's climbing up walls to make Fluttershy cry. She never had a chance to actually help fix the problem. She never had a chance to actually offer some information or help alleviate the distress. She does that here. After we get a very interesting out-of-context shot. I could start many Twitter chains about this. Like, what's the safe word? So, but Pinkie does offer some perspective.
So why do you keep running away and screaming? Sometimes it's just really fun to be scared. Pinkie Pie, you're a genius. No, I'm not. I'm a chicken.
Forgive me if I withhold my enthusiasm.
There's that little sarcasm, and there's another screenshot of this and wonder what the hoo-ah-hey is happening with this show.
I also love that she laid an egg.
She laid an egg. What happened to that egg? There's going to be one little... Yeah, she laid an egg when she fled as a chicken. It was purple with spots, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a very interesting omelet the next day.
It's Pinkie Pie, don't question it.
But basically, now we bring it all together. There are the Phillies from the start again. Twilight's still screaming internally at that point. And you know, I'm just going to go on just a quick tangent. Coulrophobia, fear of clowns, that Philly right there. I don't care what Spike says about the rainbow wig diminishing any fearsome. That Philly going to need therapy. And she just lost, and Mayor just lost her vote.
No one ever runs against Mayor anyway.
The worst part is she dyed her mane again to get that.
I am pleased with your offering, so pleased that I may just eat it instead of eating you!
So there's another fun screenshot. I do find it interesting that Kingdom Hearts Crusaders are a part of this group, but they weren't the focus. Maybe they didn't want competing attention with Luna. But it's interesting to see what the Crusaders come up with. And there's something about Luna spitting out fake teeth. Honestly, it makes that dream and a royal problem a bit more symbolic.
Especially since the rest of them will be.
So it's where Luna's teeth are falling out and the kids are chanting at her. That's even scarier than this episode. Children of the Corn, y'all.
It's really fun. Scary, but fun.
Well then, we shall have to bring Nightmare Night back!
Yeah, I made princess.
I think Pip was speaking for many a fan at that point.
Yeah. I think, honestly, he was the first Princess Luna lover.
Phrasing that might change. I mean, especially with this shot. But yes, she is now accepted by the children.
Oh, yeah.
And the future generations.
And Pipsqueak marries her later.
And
Blasphemy!
Shame! This great look. Oh, most wonderful! Oh. Okay, is this not, this is even more adorable than Pipsqueak.
Yeah.
So, and Luna is accepted, okay, the screenshot on this, the Lyra and whoever the Viking pony are, they're like, are you wing drops?
Raindrops.
Raindrops. Right now it looks like they're like, are you kidding me? I was gonna dunk my head in that a minute ago. Now it's like princess soup. I'll just say health and safety is going to have a few words with Applejack.
They have health and safety?
Derpy was already in that tub before Luna was.
Well, you know, there's a special anti-derpy mix.
But she folds clothes.
Anyway, there's still one bit of karma we haven't worked out yet.
That's why I know episode.
Karma's a beat.
So, if I post this on Twitter with the phrase "caption this," what can y'all come up with?
The implications.
The bees, not the bees!
I'll give y'all some time to ponder it, but look for this. I will find out. Yes.
When you turn off the mature filter on FYI fiction.
Excellent. That's a good starting point. But I want to see that on the Twitters if you can. Excellent.
The safe word is rainbow crash.
But that'll actually lend you an extra beating. Anyway, I'm getting very mature here, aren't I? funny that they call it humor mature when I am not. But here we are, the end, and it's one of my favorite episodes of the show. Great reintroduction to Luna. It's a great look at the town and the vitality there. It's actually kind of interesting to dissect the elements that are borrowed from Halloween, even though it's not quite the same as Halloween. There's a different legend behind it. Equestria, aside from the whole by Celestia, or as Celestia is my witness, there's no organized religion, so we don't have that bit of influence in their history, but there's still a parallel. And it's just fun to root for a character who is simultaneously in a position of power, yet exceptionally vulnerable. How hard is it to pull off that dynamic? It's very hard usually for someone, if it's someone in power, like a high-grade lawyer, they have to challenge the government, because that's the only way a powerful can punch up, and we can root for them. I'm thinking of Boston Legal right now.
Really?
Yeah, I like Boston Legal. Oh, Nora does not approve. She's more the practice.
Actually, I am more of Law and Order SVU.
There we go. You mentioned lawyer, all I think is Phoenix Wright.
My cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
Cousin Vinny, okay. There's a Cousin Vinny fence. So, okay, well, you see in these pictures, these two Utes. There's two Utes and the princess. Anyway, and let's see, anything else? Well, funny enough, you can study how not to rule when Luna asserts authority. Because you run the risk of losing, you gain fear in the moment, but gain hatred in the long run. And that undermines. There's an interesting dynamic. One that, honestly, I feel like the last decade highlights in many respects. But let's not get too focused on that. We've got about 7 minutes. If y'all have questions, observations, thoughts, Maud.
So I remember back in the, this is still in the early of the fandom, you recall CR used to be a big Brony fan base from that guy with glasses, and when he did a review of Luna, and he kind of had a history of why this legend was still kept around, he brought the idea that Celestia thought, well, if I keep the legend of Nightmare Moon alive, people will still go and kind of look into the elements of harmony, and then maybe, you know, the day when she comes, we'll have a bunch of people who know about her and know about her legend, so that there's a higher chance of people. And if the student I-6 fails, there's still a chance that some kids are gonna, go and look for the elements and embody them.
So it's very possible. Celestia was playing a very long game.
Right.
So like I say, it's easier sometimes to adopt an idea than fight it, or to redirect the idea towards a purpose. So, China.
Just a thought I had kind of on the rewatch in view of a couple of later episodes. I mean, I liked this episode when it came out, but it also feels like it kind of, like there's a thread through a few episodes between this, the one with Troubleshoes, and Newbie Dash, where it feels like the episode comes across with the message of, if people think of you a certain way, don't fight it, just embrace it, even if you don't like it. And it's not too prevalent here, it's only kind of in hindsight that I even made that connection. But as it goes on, it gets more and more uncomfortable.
So this will be the start of witnessing a weakness in the storytelling over the series, that sometimes fitting into a role, letting the larger culture dictate a role to you. Now, one thing though, Luna is getting engaged, she's having fun with the public. Is it possible to accept a role but also modify it to make it your own? In that way you assert you're working with it, because again, hard to fight an idea, but you are not subservient.
Well, that's Wreck-It Ralph, basically.
That's Wreck-It Ralph. Troubleshoes, he could be his own kind of clown. It depends. We never got any follow-up with old Troubleshoes. I'm grateful for Terramar, who didn't have to choose between land and sea. See, I saw some other hands. In the back.
One observation that I've observed, not just in this episode, but also in the season 4 premiere, is how Nightmare Night, or even the Summer Sun celebration for that matter, came to be when the battle between Celestia and Nightmare Moon lasted probably less than 5 minutes, and there were no witnesses.
Well, we don't know there were no witnesses. There was a castle. there must be, well.
I mean, because of the eclipse that never happened before, people are gonna notice something.
Okay, the eclipse is a thing, the sun's a little behind schedule. Hey, there's a lot of explosions happening at the castle. I don't know how many, if there were. I mean, this is the point where we're constructing headcanon. Logic would say that there were some ponies in the castle seeing to the royal duties, but then again, we also have Twilight living in a castle with no support or attendance.
Well, also, there's another aspect as far as witnesses. There seems to be an implication with that Ponyville was populated around that time when Granny Smith is her father is being given this plot of land by Celestia. That Celestia is saying, well, this plot's available, but it seems like it hasn't been populated for a while, so there probably was a town around that area at that time. So
it all hinges on either ponies asked Celestia why this happened, and or they saw some aspect of the battle. And Celestia realized, I can't keep this all under wraps. So it's something to ponder. In some ways, when you try to connect elements, you get you can come up with your own stories and inspirations. And I see a very enthusiastic hand raise. What's up? That's all good. You give me the duck.
I came here late, so my apologies if you already made this point, but it's very interesting to see how this is the closest we get to organized religion in MLP. Sort of treating Nightmare Moon as a wrathful deity who must be satiated with offerings, like even the offering of dough, of pastries and cakes or other desserts has parallels in religions like Hinduism and Buddhism.
And Christianity, when they adopted All Saints Day and then All Souls Day, you could offer little prayer cakes to people who were offering. They would take the cake and offer up prayers to a departed one.
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead.
That's a bunch of Catholics doing that.
There you go.
Well, not just that, but like the concept of a wrathful deity who might bring you misfortune.
I've never been fond of calling the princesses gods because
like.
So, but a wrathful being, a negative force. Yes, that it is an interesting parallel. Yes, you've been patient.
Well, it's less a question, more of a comment I was wanting to make on when you were talking about Zecora, how at one time, she was shunned from Ponyville and nobody wanted anything to do with her, and to a certain extent she kind of accepted that and just decided not to have much to do with them either. But now, she's in with the community, she participates, and really, even though she's a foreigner, she seems to know a good deal about pony history and culture.
Well, that's the question with Sakura. Given what we've learned in the Season 10 comics, that she was an avid fan of magic, and she kind of idolized. Oh, you okay? Hey, we okay here? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Okay, as long as you're okay. But, wow, there's even relieving music. Where'd that coming from? Does my life have a soundtrack?
You'd abuse it.
Oh God, what does it play when I'm in the bathroom? I've never. Let's see here. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're just about to wrap up. Any final thoughts as we close things up? Yes.
You go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
My impression of the how the Nightmare Night holiday came to be is that if there probably weren't very many witnesses to the sisters falling out. I got the impression that like Celestia just doesn't talk about it, and so that's how all these misconceptions came to be.
It's very possible, and that's why she has to suddenly run with an idea she might not have endorsed, but now she has to work with it. I can see Celestia being unsure of herself and unsteady in the wake of Luna's banishment.
Well, if Luna might not have have been very well understood by the public to begin with.
Very likely.
Kind of like the company I work for, the management doesn't really communicate with the employees very well. So, rumors run rampant and they don't really do anything to stop it.
A lie spreads faster than the truth. Believe me, I'm right there with you. I know that feeling. I saw one other hand over towards the left here. Final thoughts?
I guess I'll chime in.
Sure.
Going back to the differences between the Summer Sun Celebration and Nightmare Night, I mean, the Summer Sun Celebration celebrates Celestia's defeat over Nightmare Moon, so then how exactly did we get, Nightmare Night, where everybody is saying, we gotta, be afraid of Nightmare Moon?
Well, it's funny, the original holiday that starts with an S, it wasn't held, I don't think it was held on October 31st in the traditional sense. They've actually moved the holiday a few times in our history. But, do you have a date?
Well, in historic times, Samhain was celebrated on the 1st of November. But in the traditional time reckoning, it began the previous night, or what we would call the evening of October 31st.
But I think the Catholic Church also mucked with the timing even more until they went back. So it's been, well, as I understand, the original celebration was because the days became shorter, the nights became cooler. It was the advent of autumn into winter, and also a fear or a feeling that the spirit world had greater contact. Now, here you have I'm gonna have to back up to a good image of this, but you have a being, you have a being that really represents everything that goes bump in the night, everything dark, scary, and uncertain. So, in this way, this may not be the night Nightmare Moon was defeated, but it would have been the night she was most powerful. So maybe that's what they fear, that even in banishment, Nightmare Moon had just one night, where she could really cause trouble. And that's a way to channel fear. The Carl Jung and people who followed his philosophy often say we create villain monsters out of our own subconscious. So fear of the dark, fear of the unknown, fear of the dying of the light. How fitting for Nightmare Moon to embody all this idea.
Just to close out, if anyone wants to do more research into the history of Halloween, there's a great story called The Halloween Tree by sci-fi author Ray Bradbury.
The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury.
It was a story, a supernatural entity takes kids back to see various origins of Halloween and Egyptian stuff, and Day of the Dead, and it was also turned into an animated movie.
Oh, I remember that. They were after the kid's skull, and they split the last one into four. That's Candy Skull.
Yep, that's the one.
Oh, okay, it was a candy skull. I was like, well, Ray Bradbury had a few things going on. I appreciate that. That sounds like a very interesting and fun dream. So everyone, thank you for coming to my panel. Thank you for talking with me about Princess Luna. Ciderfest.